is something that is kind of important to us violinists. And while great violin tone can take years to develop, there are 3 things you can do today that will immediately improve yours. I'm Tobias Murphy, and this is Murphy Music Academy. Of course, if you find yourself needing some personalized help with your tone, then you're going to want to shoot an email to admin@murphymusicacademy.org to set up a trial lesson with myself or any one of the wonderful teachers here at Murphy Music Academy. And if you're a returning viewer, you want to go ahead and hit that like button, because you and I both know you're going to like the video, and you might as well hit the subscribe button and the little bell while you're at it. Of course, if you're new to the channel, then you can hit the like button anytime you dang well please. So, to jump right into it, one of the biggest things that affects the quality of our tone is the stability of our bow arm. Which brings us to our first point, keeping the shoulders back while you play. You see, when we play the violin, it naturally will pull our shoulders forward. So we don't want to exacerbate this by allowing the shoulders to pull forward any more than they absolutely have to. When we allow the shoulders to pull forward unnecessarily while we're playing, we actually destabilize the bow arm, which will result in a lot of problems with the consistency and quality of your sound. So how do we fix this? Well, for the next few weeks, I want you to try and keep your shoulders back as you're playing, especially as you come to the frog. The best way to start practicing this is on long, full bow strokes on open strings. So if I'm going to start a full bow stroke on my open A string at the frog, then I want to use the muscles in the middle of my back to pull my shoulders back. And then, as I'm playing, I'm going to use the muscles around the shoulder joint, completely different group of muscles, to pull the arm forward. So if you can coordinate those 2 groups of muscles properly, you can keep the shoulders back while moving the arm forward, which allows you much more stability when you are bowing. And as I said before, I would just start practicing like that very carefully and very slowly on my open A string. Do this at the beginning of your practice every day for the next few weeks, and you will definitely notice your bow arm becoming much more stable, which will inevitably cause your tone to improve. To further demonstrate, here is the opening of the meditation from Thais, and I'm going to keep my shoulder ever so slightly forward. I'm not going to exaggerate really that much. I have seen this, what I'm about to show you, many times with students. And again, I am not actually trying to make this sound bad. This is just what happens. Here my shoulder is a bit forward, as you can see. You can hear, again, it's not the worst sound in the world, and it's partially because I have a lot of experience and have been playing the violin for a very long time, but you can hear there's quite a bit of instability in the sound just from that slight forward motion of the shoulder. Now, if I keep my shoulder back, night and day difference in the quality and consistency of the sound. The next simple fix that will immediately improve the quality of your tone and your bow control is actually changing the angle of the right hand on the bow itself. Now, when I talk about bow hand angle, I'm not talking about this, switching from a more sort of Russian to Belgian bow hold or vice versa, or even this, the change between supination and pronation. I'm talking about the angle of the hand as it sits on the very spine of the bow. A problem I see constantly is students coming to me with a sort of limp fish wrist bow hold, which provides no security and no power to the sound. Now, the reason a lot of students tend to play this way is because they're trying to avoid scratching, which, for the most part, this type of bow stroke will do. But honestly, I would rather have a student scratch than use this bow hold, because scratching is actually a lot easier to fix. Not that fixing this is particularly difficult, but Fixing a scratchy sound is surprisingly easy, and it's something that I do plan on going over in a future video. Now, the main issue with the sort of floppy fish bow hold is that it removes most of the contact of the two middle fingers and a fair bit of the index finger from the spine of the bow. Without this contact, it's almost impossible to get any real weight into the strings. So to fix this, we just simply need to angle our fingers a bit behind the bow. Another way to think of this is if we are approaching the bow with the right hand, we would actually want to approach it more from behind instead of over, right? So if I come like this to the bow, and I have that full contact of the two middle fingers on the stick, I can then allow them to sort of drape over the stick. And as you see, I'm keeping my hand behind the stick like this, right? Even when I'm not holding it with my left hand. So I maintain full contact of those two middle fingers, which allows a lot more of that natural arm weight to go into the stick when I play. Once the hand is in the optimized position, we will have much more control over the sound and a much more improved sound where the weight of the arm and the shoulder can be passed through the hand into the bow and into the string. So as you see here, I'm going to allow, you can see that arm weight now being transferred into the stick from the fingers, and that allows a lot easier time getting the sound out of the violin. I truly am barely working at producing the sound at all. You set everything up right, and it comes out very naturally. Now, I would be remiss without pointing out there actually is a time to use the limp wrist bow hold, and that is when you want to have almost no sound or play very, very softly. Now for our third and final quick and easy tonal fix. Well, quick and easy as far as violin goes, not forcing the sound. As I've mentioned in other videos, the violin is a walking, or rather vibrating, contradiction. If I pluck the string, and then I touch it again, I will dampen the sound. But in order to produce sound, I must have something, in this case my bow, constantly touching the string. This means we are always dampening the sound at least some degree while we're producing it. So we must find that perfect balance between the amount of pressure that is required to produce a full sound and a release of that pressure so that the string can sufficiently resonate. And quite frankly, it really doesn't take that much to produce a big sound. Most students work way too hard for the sound they're getting, when really they would get a much more beautiful and bigger sound from focusing on not forcing the bow into the strings, but instead allowing the bow to release the bow pressure. You see, the most important thing when it comes to producing a good quality tone is the very beginning of the stroke, which we violinists often call the catch. This catch can be quite harsh. If you want to do something like staccato, quite moderate. If you want to do some basic détaché, and quite soft if you want to play more legato. The catch of all types is created by the level of friction at the start of the bow stroke, not the level of pressure. And while pressure and friction are somewhat coordinated here, you actually don't need a lot of pressure in order to get sufficient friction from the bow here to the strings. For example, if you take a good look at the pressure of the bow, you can see how far down it goes. I actually don't need very much in order to fully catch the string. Now, once you have the appropriate catch to the bow stroke, all you really then need to do is maintain the sound. Most of the work of sound production has already been done, and it really doesn't take that much pressure or effort to keep the sound going. This is especially important when it comes to double stops, and particularly triple stops. Many students seem to be under the impression that you need twice as much pressure to play 2 strings and 3 times as much pressure to play 3 strings. And this is why many students' chords and double stops don't sound very good. To play properly on 2 strings, the main focus needs to be on the evenness of the bow across both strings, with the same principle of catch and release as we would apply to a single string. For chords or triple stops, the bow speed required to play 3 strings at once will automatically apply enough pressure to the strings. So anything additional added will only really result in crunched chords. Instead, you want to focus on a more horizontal motion across the strings, as well as the release of the bow. So there you have it, 3 commonly overlooked things in the bow arm that can drastically and instantly improve your playing. If any of these were a surprise to you and you tried them after watching this video, please let me know how they worked out for you in the comments below. Or just comment that you like my shirt or my haircut, doesn't really matter. If you comment, it does help me in the algorithm. I've been Tobias Murphy for Murphy Music Academy, always here to remind you there is no pleasure in mediocrity. Happy practicing, and I'll see you next time. By the way, anything I'm saying right now is not to go in the video. I'm trying to make a mistake and I can't do it.